And here's the beginning of another project. It's late winter here, my shop's not heated, so I do lots of stuff in the house and not too much shop work, but we can start a lot of projects anyways. This one is related to the shaper project. You know, as I take that machine apart and find different areas which need attention on it, I might need to address some of the scraping. I don't have a power scraper, but I have a homemade hand scraper at work, which we can bring that home and use it, but I need some way to sharpen it. That's where this grinder comes into play. More about that in a minute. A lot of you may be familiar with this kind of grinder. It's a slow speed diamond disc grinder used for sharpening carbide tools. A lot of people that scrape use this. I myself have even used one, not one that I've owned, but one that somebody else has owned. And they're nice grinders, but they're also over $1,000 to purchase one, which I'm sure the machine's worth it, and there's probably some supply and demand there making this price. But for what it is, a motor and a pulley and some bearings, for the home shop, I don't see spending that kind of money when I can spend that money elsewhere. So my wife was at an estate sale, and she sends me a text message and a couple of homemade grinders. This grinder had one of those cheap drill bit sharpeners on it. See, it says $20 on this back tag here, but it's $20 not what she paid. You know, it was half off day, so I believe she paid $10 for this. It's a 3rd horsepower motor. As far as I can figure, that's a bigger motor than what's on that commercial unit. But it is small for this large stone that's on here. So we can repurpose this into a different kind of grinder. On eBay, you can buy these diamond coated cutting discs, sharpening discs I should say, for a relatively good cost. Should be able to sharpen some carbide with one of them. Need to go on an aluminum on a backer plate. Just happen to have an aluminum backer plate, which I think might even be the same size as this arbor adapter on this motor, as long as it runs true. Now, I was originally considering having a pulley setup with this motor on the bottom, the spindle on the top mounted 2 bearings, and then moving the motor up and down to tension the belt. But that might take up some space. So maybe if I fix the motor to the base, fix the spindle above it, and then have a swing arm with another bearing on it to tighten the belt, that could add some complexity and an extra bearing, but it might save in some height. These are some pulleys that I have. They'll give me about a 5-to-1 ratio, which will put me in the 300-400 RPM range, so which will get me slow enough for what I'm doing. One issue is the bore, and this pulley is much too small to fit on the motor shaft, so an adapter will have to be made there. Chunk of round shaft, which you can use with a spindle pulley up top to run a grinding disc. And I've got some bearings off eBay. You know, I don't run a commercial shop. This is a home hobby shop. These aren't going to see full-time use. So I'm sure these bearings will hold up just fine for my application. I won't be posting this video until I put some further progress on this to keep from constantly introducing new projects. So if you're seeing this on YouTube, that means this project is commencing. Okay, it's been over a week and a half since I shot the last scene. It's a little warmer around here. Spring will be here in a couple weeks. Got a little more work done on this. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. Maybe I'll have some chance to get some work done on this tomorrow as well. We'll see. Here's the motor. I got it off of the lumber that it was bolted down to. You can see it's mounted in this bracket, mounted on some rubber bushings here on the ends. It does have a hole in the shaft here. Well, not ideal, but we could probably use it. You gotta make an adapter for that to fit that fit this pulley with this 5/16 bore to it. So that'll go about here. That round shaft I had in the last scene there was a little shorter than I wanted. So I actually had to buy a piece of something. I know. So I got this 18-inch piece, plenty there. I can cut it down. So I'll put this. Idea is put this 5-inch pulley up here and then give me about a 5-to-1 reduction off the motor. That'll transfer up here to where this adapter will fit, and then plate, the backer plate and grinder plate on front of that. And then I'll all fit there. Of course, like I said, a lot shorter, but see how that'll work. These bearings are probably a little heavy duty, but as I said, they're budget. Put a couple of them up here, maybe around about in here, I'm guessing. Try to give some room to access these oil holes on this motor. Probably put the bearings on the inside. If I do put a sheet metal cover over this, I have to take the cover off to grease this, but as slow as it runs and as little as this will get used, I don't imagine I'll have to grease it too often. Now, over the years, even before I had a shop of my own, I always dug around and scrap piles and see what I had, and it comes in handy. Got this aluminum plate here, a little ridge on it, but I think this was for mounting electrical components, but this might just work just fine. As a base for this motor. Now, I do have a couple of pieces of this. I like to make some uprights, but this is probably a bit on the heavy side. This is some pretty decent sized chunks of aluminum here. Let's see what this is. It's metric, but it's just shy of 3/16 anyways. That's pretty heavy, probably for this application. It is only a fractional size motor, and as it's a slow speed grinder, it's not going to see a lot of forces. The most force they'll probably see is the belt tension pulling on it. So I do have some cutoffs that I also acquired. These are a little bit thinner. They're probably about 3/32 by 2 3/8 by 1 9/16. Could be metric too, who knows. A lot of machines are metric today, and when scrap piles I dig out of, there could be a lot of metric stuff. But anyways, we could use a couple of these. A couple of these possibly as uprights like this. This might work a little better. Be a little lighter anyways. Now I don't know if I would want to put the bearing inside this pulley back here or outside this pulley. I'm thinking inside, just because this shaft back here is so long, plus an adapter. By the time we get up here, there'll be plenty of room for a bearing here. And on this side, I definitely want to be on the inside of the plate, just to keep it compact. Of course, this plate here I can leave long, and it'll give me a base to put some sort of angle table on here for grinding, mainly carbide scraper inserts. Aluminum should be nice and light. Of course, I got the problem of putting it together. I guess I'll have to do some practicing on my aluminum welding here. See if I can stick these together. Now, as far as the belt tensioning goes, I got another little treasure out of my scavenge pile here. So if we put, I've got a belt here. So you can imagine this will be on here somewhere. Something like this. So instead of moving the motor up and down, because that would require a hinged motor plate, which would add to the height of this, which I'm trying to keep it as compact as possible. Maybe we can come in from the side. I got this little wheel. It's used, with the bearings feel good. It's about twice as wide as the belt. But I could put that here on some sort of arm or shaft and use that to tension the belt. And like I said, it's a little more complex, but maybe it'll reduce the height of this whole grinder. Small shop like mine, you try to save all the room where you can. A couple more days have gone by. Still rather windy outside, but it is warming up. I think we almost hit 60 degrees Fahrenheit today. You might hear some wind noise in the background here. It's quite windy out. So this is pretty much where we left off with this project. Here's the motor on our aluminum plate. So I've taken some of these cutoffs, laid them out, put some holes in them, fit these bearings, you know, these eBay bearings that I've got. They have rather large holes in them. It's going to take 7/16 screws, which is well, more than adequate for this project. So I've been looking at it, and I'm thinking maybe I'll put these pieces on facing like this, so kind of give a little enclosure for the pulley and the belt back here. A little safety for that, and it'll let the bearing mount over here and not add any more length to this. Speaking of the pulleys, I did come up with a piece of round stock. I believe I can make a pulley adapter out of this, the 1/2 to 5/16 shaft. I think this is some kind of mild steel. This is actually out of the trash can again. This was from a busted commercial overhead door. They fixed it and cut this piece off, and well, here it is. So let's move this forward. Put some of these bearings on here. Like I said, I could probably come up with a better bearing for this application. not so large, but for the price of these, you really can't beat it. So that'll go somewhere about like that. Now this side, the front side, I think just to keep keep it more compact, I think I'll try to keep this up as close to the motor as possible. So it'll end up being in the same direction as that, as the other end, as far as these angles are. Bolt the bearing to this. On the back side of these. Again, I'm trying to keep it as compact as possible, but also if there's ever any reason I need to pull that motor out of there, I want to give it enough clearance that when I do weld all these pieces in place, it's not going to make it impossible to get that motor in and out. So this is all just design on the fly. Now these pieces are cut square, but I don't have anything squared up or measured at this point, so things might look a little off here. Pulley will go in the back. There it is. That's something what I was thinking. Then I'll have to have an extra little bit here just to hold some sort of table. Not going to cut any of these shafts off yet until I'm sure the final size. These angle pieces, I left them a little long. Gives an option of trimming them down a little bit later. Get you down off the tripod here. Give you a little walk around, kind of an idea of what we're looking at. Not really any plans, just ideas in my head. Backer plate will be somewhere in there. Again, you can see I left those angle irons a little high there. See you next time. Thanks, and if you like this video, please subscribe and like.